many years of my life, decades, I used to think that life was a struggle. Life is a war. Good versus evil. In war against everything and anything. You got a war against coworkers for the best jobs. You've got to struggle and fight financially. You've got to struggle to keep your health, to be healthy. You got to struggle to uh, make people respect you, um, to treat you right. You always have to be on the outlook. Always like when you're in the parking lot in the dark. You always gotta watch your back and watch out for people, not just physically wanting to assault you or attack you, but mentally. Mainly, it was mental. The way I was thinking about it is that life is a psychological warfare, and you always gotta, you know, be on your toes with people because people want to manipulate you or screw you over or whatever. And of course, for those years, I also was a Christian. So I thought everything was a spiritual war. Then I was a Christian identist, which is racial Christianity, white Christianity. And I used to think it was a racial holy war. It was a war of the white race, the Israelites, the Adamites, the descendants, the true and only descendants of Adam against everyone else. Some fucked up ways of thinking, but that's what I used to think. You have to struggle in this life financially, everything, to keep your health, everything, like I said. And my nature was that I never believed in straight on fighting. I believed that as far as I never was one of these guys to just get in a straight fist fight with somebody. I didn't believe in fighting fair. I don't believe there's any fairness in war. There's fairness in sport. So I always believed in, well, that fighting is for survival, unless it is for sport. Then, yeah, you fight by rules and all of that, like the MMA or boxing or kickboxing or wrestling or whatever. I always thought conventional warfare was stupid. In the ancient days where the armies would face off with each other with arrows and spears and swords and battle axes and just one army fighting a group of another army and that. And then later muskets and cannons. I always thought that was stupid to stand there shooting at each other, getting shot. And then, with modern warfare, with rifles and bombs and missiles and machine guns and all that kind of crap, armies against armies, I always thought that was stupid. I always thought if you got to fight, at least fight in a guerrilla warfare. Hit and run tactics. You engage, you make your strike, and get out of there and don't stay in an engaged firefight or battle with an enemy. The American Apache war chief, Cochise, was very good at guerrilla warfare, hit and run tactics. The American colonists, such as the colonial militia under Francis Marion, who did the guerrilla warfare against the British Crown's army, hit and run, never engaging in certainly not just standing there across the field shooting each other, shoot each other in the faces with their cannons and muskets, and then charging each other with bayonets. I always thought that was stupid. And then there's, to me, what was always the smartest way was simply assassination of leaders, of whether it was a military officer or political leaders. I always thought, well, that would be the best way for warfare. Whether it was a sniper, a sharpshooter, or an assassin, with a knife, or poisoning. Today you have this targeting, bombing or missile, firing missiles. I mean, there was bombs too, but missiles, drones and things like that. And that made more sense to me. It still does. I mean, if you got to fight somebody, make it as easy as possible and always put everything to your advantage. I mean, in prison and the mafias, all the different mafias and mobs, I mean, to me, when they had to take somebody out, it wasn't about, this honorable shit. It was just, we got to fucking got to take you out. Same thing in prisons. They got to take you out. They're going to fucking take you out. They're going to have like 4 or 5 guys get you when you're not expected in the library or the shower or whatever, or when get you in your cell by yourself or whatever. And, be 4 or 5 guys, one guy throw a sheet over you and then they start, shanking you or whatever. But it was never about fair fight. I always thought that war was never about being a fair fight. It's about survival. So now, but for me, when I used to think that, and I always told people, My family, I would tell them, when I die, I want on my tombstone, life as a war, lived as such. Because I always thought it was mainly psychological warfare, trying to figure things out, how to outsmart someone so that they don't screw you over at work or in business or, even in traffic, fight with everybody. And it's a struggle. In 2019, as I was studying metaphysics and mysticism, I turned to my wife one day and I said, I no longer am going to be at war or fighting with my fellow man. No more. No more of this bullshit of good versus evil and gotta struggle and fight and all these sorts of things. Because I woke up and realized that it's all a mirage. It's all an illusion. Unless you want it to be true, then it can be true for you. But I no longer wanted to see life as a war. War is about chaos. It's about breaking down. But it's not just breaking down. Soldiers, as it is said, are to kill and break stuff. But they're not builders. They're destroyers. So it's kind of like when you want to clean out your garage. You take everything out of there, right? And then you start putting everything back organized. Or you want to remodel your kitchen. You tear everything out, the cabinets, everything. You want to... there's a building. You want to put a better building in the place that it is. You tear that building down. You destroy it. I've worked in demolition before. And you tear that whole building down. And then someone comes along, a builder comes along. Well, I was a terror downer, one of those terror downers with that company. And you tore it down. And then the builders come and build. And within all of us is a destroyer or the demolition company. And within all of us is the creator. Now, I know that most people have heard the saying, and some people attribute it to American Indians, some people attribute it to the Nordics, some people attribute it to Germanics, some people attribute it to the Asians. It doesn't matter. It's a great ancient saying that within all of us is two wolves, and to be careful which one you feed. There's a devourer, and then there is a wolf of peace, or a builder. There is chaos and there's an order within all of us. And we should all lean more towards order or building and constructing. And the best way to deal with something or a situation that you don't like, once you identify it, and you must identify it, you don't want to be delusional and deny or ignore something you don't like, especially something that's very negative or even evil in your life. But then you begin to say, you know what, I don't like how this kitchen looks. I'm going to remodel it. I'm going to tear it all out. And it's going to look like chaos while it's tore out. But then I'm going to rebuild it. So there's a purpose to war. But life is not the war. Life is about building. Bruce Lee paraphrases a line from the Tao Te Ching, the Tao, in, I believe it's his movie Enter the Dragon. He talks about his style, tells the guy on the boat his style is fighting without fighting. And that comes from the Tao. Fighting without fighting. And that's the philosophy behind the martial art. It's an art. Aikido is about going with what the Chinese taught. Aikido is Japanese, but what the Chinese taught in the Tao Te Ching, what Lao Tzu wrote about in the Tao Te Ching, was Wu Wei, or effortless action. You have to take action against things that you want to change or to improve your situation or what have you. But the action must be effortless and not a struggle and not a fight. Well, you could think of that as in war. I mean, guerrilla warfare is better than conventional, in my opinion. And assassination is even better. But there is in Oriental martial arts the idea of the philosophy of the unsheathed sword. In winning your enemy over by either getting your enemy to stop wanting to attack you, to stop thinking you're a threat, or even better, to win your enemy over. And it has been said that some of the best friends you can have are ex-enemies. It could be ex-competition in business to actual true enemies. So to live life without having to always struggle, putting yourself in danger, and harming others, or trying to overpower others, or try to show yourself and feed your ego in an unhealthy way, feed the wrong wolf within you, and want to just struggle to fight just to fight and risk causing problems for yourself and others in arguments. One of my favorite books is the book by Jerry Spence. He was a famous defense lawyer. He defended Randy Weaver, and he was the lawyer in the Silkwood case and things like that. The Marcos case, Miss Marcos from the Philippines. And his book, How to Argue and Win Every Time. And he takes the word argue, and he doesn't mean it in an argumentative like you would think. But in the book, and it's a great book. I've read it more than once, cover to cover. I love the book. How to Argue and Win Every Time by Jerry Spence. Check it out. But he's talking about how to get your point across, or to get the objective, what you want in life, without just absolute fighting with people, but instead appealing to people. But first, you must appeal to yourself. You must first begin to see, what is it I really want in the situation? Do I just want to fight and prove my point? Or do I want to just crush the enemy? Or do I really want to achieve something in this life? What is it I want to do with this kitchen? I don't want to just tear it out and leave it torn out, or take everything out of my garage and just leave it sitting in the driveway. I want to actually organize and clean things up. It's the end result that matters. It's not the demolition. It's the construction. Another thing about Jerry Spence's book, How to Argue and Win Every Time, the book is not about malevolent manipulation. I want to say that 10 times fast. It's more about appealing to your fellow humans' humanity, appealing to their empathy. That's how he would win his cases, is he would appeal to the juries. He'd always take the jury trial, to their empathy, to be empathetic. And we know that people on the psychopathy scale lack empathy. The narcissists, the sociopaths, the psychopaths. That's a different thing. But even there's a way to deal with them in a way that's much more like mental judo or aikido, but it's peaceful. You're not trying to hurt them. You're trying to achieve a goal, and you're simply just moving something out of your way, as opposed to just smashing it and fighting it and focusing on how this barrier is in my way. Instead, how can I go with the flow, like water in a river going around a big boulder? Eventually it undermines and moves the boulder and rolls it slowly down the river with it, right? And Bruce Lee, another thing he got from the Tao Te Ching that he put in a movie, put in interviews, was to be like water. And he said, water takes the shape it's poured in, like pouring it into a bowl. It shapes itself like the bowl. Pour it into a cup, becomes the shape of the cup. And that is true. You mold yourself to the situation. That's not to say, an old acquaintance of mine in a former life of mine was being interviewed on Fox News by a very well-known Fox guy at the time. And during the interview, the guy told him, said, "You're like Jell-O, trying to nail Jell-O to the wall." And there is an idea behind that. There is some positivity behind that. It's not about pushing and forcing your way through life. And it's not about warring with people, warring with society, things you don't like at your place of business, your who you're employed by, your employer, your job, the company, the corporation you work for, things in society that you don't care for. Road raging, that's an old habit of mine. And I was a former truck driver, professional driver. Road raging, sometimes you get a little frustrated, and I don't mind feeling the frustration. Feel the frustration. Identify the things that you don't like at that moment. Feel the human emotion, but you learn to not let that wolf take over. You need both wolves in yourself, but you learn to not let that wolf dominate. That's what's important. It's not to be afraid of your dark side. It's about integrating your dark side into something positive, as Carl Jung taught, about not ignoring your shadows or what lurks in your shadows, but integrating them and using them in a positive manner. Carl Jung was a very wise man. As a former Christian, and I was a real Christian, I actually tried to follow the teachings the best I understood, the doctrines of theology and ideology that I believed in. Tried not to be a hypocrite. But one of the teachings there is, Jesus said, "In this world you will have troubles, but be not afraid, for I have overcome the world." Well, when it came to mysticism and metaphysics, I began to understand that the Bible is just another metaphysical book, another mystical book. Even Aleister Crowley The great beast himself said that. And those teachings of Christ, some of them have some good, deep, or at least can be used as good, deep teachings, mystical teachings, just like any other religious teachings or mystical teachings. And it is true, Christ, which means anointed or anointed one, your anointed mind, your Christ mind, let this mind which is in Christ be also within you, the scripture says. That's that anointed mind, that awakened mind, in realizing that life is not a war or struggle, and you're not here to suffer at all, or to make others suffer at all, is, unless that's what you choose, because it's what you get to choose, is what your reality becomes. And understanding that what he meant by I have overcome the world is the anointed mind. You overcome the world. You begin to realize you're in this world and you will have struggles. You're in this world of seeming duality, this world of contrasts. And you have the bitter and the sweet are contrasted. The cold and the heat, the dark and the light, the evil and the good, right? And all degrees in between. As the Kybalion talks about, different degrees of such things as heat and cold, bitter and sweet, etc., etc. And you can choose, you notice something, you're not disregarding it right out. You're not ignoring it. You're not delusional. You just acknowledge, I don't like this in my life. I don't have to struggle against it, though. I can choose what I want to be true and focus upon the finished product of the remodeled kitchen or the organized garage or this seeming argument I'm having with my friend or my enemy or my relative or my spouse or whatever. There is something here that I can do. I don't want to focus on chaos. I want to focus on building. And the building may not be about them. It may be about you. And to be clear, actually everything in your life is about you. Yes, this is not, it's a hard word for me to say, solopolism, or that you're the only one that exists. But you are the only one in charge. You are the God and creator of, or chooser of what is created in your life. You are the center of your universe, Copernicus. You are the center. And when I began to understand that concept, it's not about being selfish, but it is about that everything we do ultimately is from selfish perspective. But it's not in a negative way, or in the negative end of the spectrum, or the contrast, but the positive. In other words, you are responsible for your life. You're responsible for what goes on in your life by what you choose to believe and accept as true for you, and what you choose to accept is manifested in your life. So if there are struggles or contentions in your life, they're there to help you to choose what you would rather have. It's not there for you to struggle and fight against and to beat against and worry and stress about. So if you have a contentious problem in your life or person in your life, it's not that there's some karma in your life that's, oh, you deserve this, or some lesson you have to learn. No. I know that's some bullshit that some people have taught, but that's not true. It's simply to teach you that you are in total control, but your control is in choosing what is real for yourself, not in the fighting, but in the focusing of the finished remodeled kitchen, or cleaned up or organized garage, or better situation, or better job, or better finances, or better health. It's not for you to struggle. Yeah, there'll be a journey there. There'll be a afterwards, you can look back 2020 type thing, hindsight, and say, yeah, I went this way, that way. But this is just a story for you to tell in this reality. A lot of people forget that miracles happen in their lives, but they like to keep the story and think that they did it all, and they change the story. Someone's mistreating you in life. Is this because your karma from past life, or something you've done in your past in this life, or whatever? No. It is simply comes up in your life, and what matters is not why it came up in your life so much. You don't have to psychoanalyze and do all this shit, unless that's what you believe and want to be true for yourself. All you have to do is say, okay, but what do I want? What do I want out of this situation? Do I want this relationship to continue? Do I want this situation to get better, or whatever? And you choose what is true for you. And ultimately, you have to find out what you really want in life. I've had multiple relationships and marriages in my life, and I had to learn that, one, I wasn't right for them and they weren't right for me. And in most cases, they were good women. I got with a couple of shitheads, but I wasn't with them very long. But what does that say? It's not about them. It's not about the bad or negative people, or the asshole boss, or bad situation. It's not about that. It's about how are you going to choose or react now. That's all that matters. It's not about your yesterdays or the past or anything like that. It's about what are you doing now. There is no past. There is no future. There is only now. If you got a time machine and went to the past, there would only be that now. If you go to the future, it would only be that now. There's only right this moment. So what matters is, it's not, you don't drag karma and bullshit. People misunderstand the term karma, the Sanskrit word karma. Karma simply means momentum. If you want to change the momentum, it's your momentum that leads you into bad things in your life, not your bad karma. It's the momentum, positive momentum that you have, a positive karma or momentum that you have that leads you into good things in your life. Okay, not because you've been worthy and you kept the laws of God or been loving or fed the poor or didn't have bad thoughts. That's all bullshit. It is because of where you focus. Yeah, it's your thoughts, but it's where you focus. It's your perception, and how you focus is your perception. Where you're at, like where I am in this junkyard, what I see is according to where I'm sitting. My perception is based on what I'm sitting, where I'm at in this loader, where I'm at, my position. Your position. If you don't like something in your life, change your state of mind or your position. Change from being ill to being well, from being poor to having an abundance of money, to being unhappily lonely or single or unhappily married to happily married. It's about you. It's totally about you. You are the center of your universe. So when we get so up into, we got to fight and we got to struggle against this person and this person's doing this and causing all these problems, don't be in the victim mindset. Say, you know what, I changed this. And let events happen. Let things happen. Wu Wei, effortless action. In Hermetic mysticism, European mysticism, this is called flow. Or Wu Wei in Chinese mysticism. Allow things. In Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, in Japanese Aikido, they talk about flow or blending with your enemy's movements and blending and flowing. It's not about war. It's about finding a way, because you're going to have attacks in this life or challenges in this life. So what do? In this world you will have tribulation. But be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. Your higher mind, you find ways to deal with things and to lessen their impact and to even direct you into a better situation. A seemingly bad financial situation can lead you to a really, really dream job, good job. A health problem could actually turn out to have good things come out of it, right? Everything is going the way you believe it. If you believe things always go shitty for you, that's what's going to happen. If you believe men or women in relationships with them are horrible, that's what's going to always happen. You're always going to have bad relationships. They may start out wonderful, but they will end bad. If you think, well, I always have bad luck with cars, well, you can get a great car and then later on it'll just be a problem for you. It's your perception, your state of mind. It's not about warfare. It's not about militarism. It's not about struggle and fighting. It's about adjusting your state. In martial arts, they talk about where you're at in your position, whether it's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the positioning on the ground, to your position of where your arm and leg is. In boxing, it's positioning. Everything is positioning. In operating heavy equipment like this loader here, it's about angles, as I was first taught by a heavy equipment operator who was teaching me. It's about angles. Everything is about position. Maybe approach your work with a pile of dirt or whatever you're going to do. In my case, the car that I'm going to be working with, tearing the motor out or something, it's the angle, position. Change that. Don't get mad at the motor not coming out right or whatever. Change your position, adjust it. Don't get mad at the person that's trying to, it could be a toxic person. Don't fight the person. Change your state of mind. And that toxic person, because you do attract, your vibe does, or vibrations, that's what vibes mean. Your vibration or your frequency, which is based on your state of mind. Everyone talks about law of attraction, law of vibration. All that simply means is, yeah, I believe there's frequencies and vibrations, and I don't believe man can ever truly understand all of that. But that's based on your frequency. I'm sorry, based on your state. If you don't like the channel or radio, which comes in through frequency, right? You change the station or the state, don't you? To get it different. Or adjust it. If it's coming in kind of crackly, not clear, you adjust it, don't you? Simply adjust your positioning. In martial arts, operating anything in life. You don't like where you're at in traffic, you adjust it. You go around that car, you do this, you do that. Everything is about simple, gentle adjustment, and you'll be amazed at what you can achieve in life, and the fighting just goes away. Focus on the goals, not the obstacles. People focus on the obstacles. Don't focus on the obstacles in your life. Say, okay, this bad situation, this bad relationship, or this bad financial problem I got, or excuse me, whatever you got. Don't focus on that. See that as an object of telling you, oh, I just need to adjust my state. If I'm in a toxic relationship, I just need to adjust my state. I don't need to adjust them. I don't need to fight and argue with them. I just simply adjust my state. And that person will go out of your life. I know that for a fact. I've told that to people and watched toxic people leave their lives. That's all you have to do. Same thing with toxic problems in life. Don't be toxic to yourself. The only person that's truly being toxic to you is yourself. And all you have to do is adjust your state. Just see what you'd rather have. That's all. Not how to adjust your state like, how do I fight against this? What do I do? It's not about that. It's about simply adjusting. Driving into the sun now. I'm going to have to adjust my angle. My eyes are blinding there. You simply adjust. Just adjust your state. Don't fight. Once you see something you don't like, you identify a situation or a person you don't like, you simply adjust your state to the state of, this is what I have. This is what I'm going for. This is the new remodeled kitchen I want. But it's not about the demolition of the old kitchen. Have you ever noticed when you have a problem and you can't figure it out and you don't let yourself just stay awake and sleepless, but you just say, whatever, it'll work out. It'll work out as it's supposed to, whatever. And you go to sleep, next day, ideas, inspiration, or things work out for you. Those miracles that later you want to come out with a story and act like you did it all. Because the universe, which is just mind, is intelligent. Like quantum science is now beginning to understand over and over. Matter and material reality is just consciousness in action, crystallized in this dream matrix world we live in, which is not a world of struggle or a world we have to escape the karma and the recycling or rebirthing or reincarnation of. It's a world of experience and fun. And that life is not a war, as I have discovered, but fun. So you have a problem, go to sleep with it and say, I will go to sleep and the solution will come to me. Or the solution, the problems, the events, whatever will come. You ever notice you get mad, you're trying to fix something or figure something out, you get mad, you go away from it and go to take a break, right? Go smoke a cigarette or, go ride your bike, which would probably be healthier, I guess, or whatever. But you just set it aside and you come back to it later. The things, the ideas, the parts you need, whatever, come to you. And that is showing you that I was never an atheist. I was a Christian for 37 years of my life, from 13 years old on up. And my birthday is tomorrow, and I'll be 58. And I was a Christian from 13 years old up for about 37 years, a Christian of one stripe or another, one theological, doctrinal ideal or another. Started out as a Southern Baptist boy. And I wasn't raised that way. I did it on my own. My family didn't go. My parents didn't go. I went on my own. They sent a church bus to come get me. But anyhow, because I just knew that there had to be intelligence behind nature, even as a young teenager. I knew there was intelligence to life. I just didn't understand what it was. And I remember I would debate, guys that said they were atheists or whatever, and I would say, well, you talk about how this thing worked out in your life. And I'll say, don't you see that wasn't just luck? Do you just believe in luck or coincidence? Is that logical? And I said, all the things just worked and fit, and these problems you had, they worked out for you or whatever. I said, don't you think there's some intelligence? And they would always admit, about atheists, they would always admit, yeah, there's some intelligence. It's just not the Bible God. Well, at the time, I believed in the Bible God. And I said, well, okay, I understand. Well, now, I'm like that. But I know it's not a God of any sort, an object that wants to be worshipped, a being, a demiurge, or whatever. It is simply that life is consciousness itself. There's nothing but consciousness. So when you run into problems and you have fights and you have arguments, or you have a struggle and you don't know how to fix your lawnmower and you've been working on it forever, or you can't find the part, you've looked all over the internet, you looked everywhere, you called everywhere, and you can't find the part to fix your lawnmower or your car or whatever, and you still have the desire for it, that's higher mind. Desire is nothing but higher mind trying to lead you. And when you run into these obstacles are just mirages. It's simply telling you, change your state of mind, change your positioning, and that obstacle is no longer in your way to getting to the goal that you want. It's not about efforting. It's about awareness. It's not about war. It's about focus, about choosing not just what you want to be true in your life, your financial life, your health life, your love life, whatever. It's about choosing to be in the state that it's already done. And this when I began to realize there's nothing here to fight against, no one here to war against. There's just simply goals and obstacles that help you, let you know if you're not in the proper state. If you have negative thoughts, if you have doubts or worries about something, there's nothing out here in the outer world outside of your life that's blocking you from a goal. It's just you're just frustrated or depressed or feel negative or to say it won't happen for yourself. That's a form of object. You don't have to force or fight against it. Simply adjust your state over. Just get a little bit over. And that obstacle's no longer in your way. You walk right around it. That's how you walk through the forest, the woods, right? You get mad because trees are in your way. You walk gently around, right? That's what you do. You just walk around the trees and the brush to get to your destination. You don't fight and beat at everything and chainsaw everything down. Okay, that's one way you can do things. But in the end, what kind of life have you lived? And a lot of times, there's trees too big for you, or your chainsaw breaks down, and you can't cut certain obstacles down. But if you learn to say, well, my desires are telling me my destination. I desire to have better finances or better health or whatever. A green bicycle, I always use that example. A green bicycle, this rare type of green bicycle that I want, and I can't find it anywhere on the internet. I've looked, went to bike shops, I've called around, I've emailed bike shops all over the part of the world trying to find this rare bicycle I want, this green bicycle. And you simply say, well, the desire is telling me it's there. I'm going to allow. And you begin to allow events and things in your life. You don't force anything in life. You don't have to fight or force anything in life. You simply allow your desires to be true already. And then whatever steps or actions you have to take, you take them. Now, I'm Generation X, and we were raised by the boomers, and that's not to put down boomers or any intergeneration. But we were raised that you work hard. I was talking about that this morning to someone. You work hard, save up, pay your bills, eat your vegetables, be a good person, keep your nose clean, and maybe work 2 jobs, whatever. Go to college or go to trade school or whatever. And you'll be successful in life. Well, that's bullshit. Success is a state of mind. Those things will manifest. Now, there are people that think that you have to fight, and they like the fighting. Oh, but we got to do this. We got to do that. Okay. Oh, you got to eat right to be healthy. Okay. You got to get plenty of sleep, drink plenty of clean water. Okay, get plenty of clean air. Well, you're finding out the air isn't so clean. Everything contains microplastics and toxins. The water, everything, all the food, all this, that, and the other. So you're going to have to go within, in the mind. Healthiness is a state of mind. Wealth is a state of mind. Happiness is a state of mind. Things to physically, you can fight and you can war with people and things and situations out here all you want. Or you can do as I have learned in the past few years. Beginning in 2016, I renounced Christianity completely in January of 2018. I believe it was. No, I'm sorry, 2019 is when I officially renounced it totally. And I said, Christianity, I don't believe in any outside God or anything outside of me. I believe it is up to my state of consciousness because I am God. And everyone else, including you, are what we call God. We are consciousness. If you don't believe that, and you feel like there's a physical world and people out here you have to argue and fight with, and spouses and co-workers and neighbors and people you got to fuss and fight with all the time to get what you want, situations you have to fight with or accept and submit to, go ahead and believe that. But I have come to realize that reality is what you choose it to be. And we're not here to suffer. We're not here to war, struggle with other people or even with ourselves. We are here to simply choose the state of mind we're going to see something from and then allow the situation. You'll take action, but it'll be effortless. And you'll change the story most likely. People change the story. Oh, I did this. I did the hard work. I did all this. But then when you look back, like I pointed out to the atheists when they would tell me about successful situations in their lives, I would say, what about all these so-called coincidences and luck that helped you in that situation? And they would go, well, yeah, I can see where there's intelligence to it. There is. And you are that intelligent. Live life wisely, not warringly. Have a great life. Thing I want to add real quick. This may be a little too woo-woo or weird or out there for other people, but I'm going to put it in this video anyhow, because my videos are for myself. They're my own therapy. They're my own enjoyment and for fun. My channel is not based on any one thing, metaphysics or anything, my work or anything like that. It's just my video, just me videoing stuff for fun, making videos and doing it for fun. My own video diary, and some of my family, a few of my family members watch my videos. Anyhow, I want to add this in. Many years ago, my first wife and I, we had an experience. We seen, I don't know if you call it an apparition, but it was a psi or PSI, psi event. And we seen what was basically a werewolf. It was a giant, large wolf, very, very large. But it was on all fours. It was kind of colored a little bit, and his hair was real long, like a, I don't know, you can describe it like a yak or something. His hair was kind of long. And my wife it was at nighttime, but it wasn't late, but it was dark. And she had a sliding patio door, and she looked out, and I was sitting there in the living room, and she said, Ryan, come here. And she was terrified, and I was like, what? And I ran. We lived out in the country. And I ran, and I looked, and I seen this being, and it turned around and looked at me in the eyes. And I went to speak at it, and my voice, I was like I was talking to a pipe. My wife said, your voice was like, it was weird, you know. And she was speechless herself. And I tried to speak to it, holler at it, you know, get out of here, blah, blah, blah. Because I knew what I was seeing was not a natural thing. It turned back and looked me straight in the eye, like it didn't give a fuck. And there was some high grass. It walked out of our yard into the high grass, and then it turned back around and looked at me again, and it disappeared, and we both looked at each other, and it disappeared. Well, not too much longer after that, a certain hillbilly preacher that it was like, you know, a mentor to me, and an uncle to me, he had a prophecy about me. And this was long after that. It wasn't like a couple of weeks. It was months, maybe a year or two after that. He said, beware of the wolf. And he says, I don't know what that means. He said, but beware of the wolf. Years later, someone, a loved one in my life, had experienced the same kind of wolf. And I said, did it look like this, that, and the other? And yeah. And this loved one wanted to know, you know, was curious how I knew. And I said, because I seen it. And what that wolf was our own dark wolf, our werewolf. You need it. You need the sledgehammer to demolish the kitchen, to remodel it. You need those things. I use this machine here and the crusher over here to tear out the engines and to crush these cars down so the metal can be remade into something new. But that's not where the beauty is. The beauty is when the metal is made into what, another car or a beer can or something, you know, or a cool tool like a wrench or something. Or you tear out your kitchen, it looks horrible, and you remodel it. And you put new cabinets and new kitchen, everything in it, right? New kitchen sink, everything. But that loved one that's seen that wolf, it had turned around and looked this loved one in the eyes. And looked at it. And it walked on. It wasn't my werewolf. It was a symbol of that we could use our anger and our rage and our warlikeness and our demolishing sledgehammers to create chaos. But if we depend on it, it's not going to build anything. It's going to destroy too much. So that's the lesson. There is times to use chaos, to use the werewolf within yourself, the sledgehammer, to demolish things. But the purpose is to remake things. Now, that is not to say that you're to force things, to demolish things, to tear them up, to force them to be different. It's more about demolishing and breaking down the states that no longer serve you, the things and situations in your life that no longer serve you. And it's not about destroying them on the outside, outward effort with your words or your actions, or even trying to figure things out. It's about changing your state. By changing your state, you change from the demolishing werewolf or the destroying sledgehammer to the building wolf, to the hammer, to build. Hopefully that makes sense. But we're not here to struggle or fight. We're here to choose or contrast things we don't want, we don't like, we can even hate, to situations we do want. And we don't do it through egotistical arrogance or thinking we're going to outsmart our enemies or force things in life or struggle or whatever. It's to remind us that wolf is to be used on ourselves. So the sledgehammer is for ourselves. We crucify ourselves. We die to one state so that we can see things from a different state, a different perspective. Die to one perspective so that another perspective can be born within us. Hopefully that makes sense. But it's ease. It's living life with ease. Yes, there are winters that come, but spring and summer comes afterwards. You don't want to stay in wintertime all the time. And so, but to stay in that is a state of war and struggle. But to realize your main state is to be building, choosing things you want, and accepting that they're already going to happen. It's not about arguing with people. It's not even about arguing with situations in your head, trying to figure them out. It's about choosing. It's that easy. And yes, it is.